Hi, guys, and welcome back to the 81st episode of the Yarn Junkie podcast. My name is Amber. I'm coming to you from my home in Texas, where I live with my husband, our 3 daughters, and 3 dogs. So, this is a little bit of a weird, newish setup. I'm over in my husband's office. The way our property is set up, we have our house and then kind of like a bit of yard space, and then my husband's office building is separate than the house. So he has his office, and then there's a warehouse also attached. Anyway, you needed that information because I'm over here. The reason why I'm over in his office is because we're in the COVID-19 pandemic, and my house is full of people that are usually at school or working more often, and it's just been completely strange. And I'm sure all of you can relate. This is not a pandemic podcast, but I'd be remiss to not mention what is going on globally at the moment. So this is something that is affecting all of us, no matter where you live. I always have this anxiety, and I've talked about it a little bit, but I'm a worst case scenario type person, and we prep, but we're not preppers like you see. We have a bit of food storage, we have weapons, we know how to hunt, we know how to gather food. I know a little bit about medicinal properties of plants, very little. I'd like to learn more. But all of those things I want to expand my knowledge on, because I've always had this fear that our economy is going to not be what it is now in my lifetime. I believe that to be true. So I guess I am kind of a prepper. Anyway, not to be on that tangent at all. It is super early in the morning, so I am with you guys having coffee before I have to get my kids up and homeschool them. What even? I know there are homeschoolers out there. I commend you guys. I'm not a homeschool mom. That's why my kids go to public school. And now they're here, and the government is like, homeschool your kids. And I'm like, but I don't know how to do this. I am becoming so much more tech savvy than I ever was before. I'm actually doing tech support for my kids. I asked my husband yesterday, luckily he works from home. I asked him for help, and then he was busy doing something, and I was kind of playing with it, and I figured it out. I figured out a computer thing all by myself. Y'all have no idea. Anyway, I'm all over the place. The worst case scenario topic was leading into, it's my body decided, a pandemic isn't enough to deal with. Let's give you a tooth that needs to be extracted. So if I'm talking strange, or you can see the swelling, you can actually see it pretty clearly. I just got a tooth pulled yesterday. And that's probably also a little bit of my zany mood here, is all of the fun painkillers I'm hopped up on to get rid of the excruciating pain I've been in. So I haven't slept. Before I got the tooth extracted, I was having trouble sleeping, and I called Monday morning and I was like, hey guys, you are going to have to see me. And they were like, it's emergencies only. Pretty sure this qualifies, y'all. And it did. I had a broken tooth, and it needed to come out. It was awful. You guys needed to know that. But yeah, my body is like, oh, pandemic be damned. Let's break down on Amber so she can have to go to the dentist. Like I said, I'm having coffee. It is super early in the morning here in Texas. It's not even 7 yet. And I have quite a bit to get through to show you. So that is enough about all the craziness that's been going on. I'm sure I'll pepper more stories in throughout. And I actually have notes today. Behold the show notes. It is March 31st, so I'm just getting it in on being able to have a month of March upload. Yeah, so let's just get started. I hope you have a warm, tasty beverage or a cold one, and a project that you're enjoying working on. I have actually been doing a ton of crochet lately, so hopefully I brought all of my crochet projects. I think I did. I can't wait to show you guys what I've been working on. So on February 29th, I actually went to a trunk show at my local yarn store. And I've been following this local dyer, and I say local to me relatively. She's over 2 hours away in the DFW Metroplex. I'm out here in the boonies, but As much as I go into Dallas and Fort Worth, it's my local yarn store, and these are my local yarn dyers. But Chrysalis Yarn Co., the little stitch marker got turned around in here. I'm not going to fuss with it. That way you don't have to listen to crickling. Chrysalis Yarn Co., there's her logo. And again, I'm sorry about the lighting. It's super dark outside, so I have my husband's overhead lights on. It is what it is. Super fancy podcaster here. But I got these little stitch markers from her at the trunk show. This is like a little crystal. I've been wanting one of those. I've seen them around on IG. And I also got 2 DK weight. This is her Townsend DK, which is a 75 superwash merino, 25 nylon for 245 yards. This colorway is called Lindenberry, and this one is Slow Romance. They're not doing, my lighting is not doing this justice. This is a beautiful, like, tonal purple colorway. And this one is variations of blue with some speckling, some like shots of rust and different colored speckling. So I definitely got these with hats in mind for both of my girls. I don't have a lot of DK in my stash, and so I really wanted to, that's what I'm going to work towards buying this year. When I want to support a yarn dyer or my friends, I'm going to work on buying more DK weight and less sock yarn for sure. I've been organizing my whole stash lately, and it's out of hand. I have so many sweater quantities worth of yarn. It's shameful. I really love this one though. So I figured hats are really quick, and both girls really need new hats for this winter, and so I can probably crank these out right around their birthday in November, and they can have new hats for Christmas. So that was what I got at the Chrysalis Yarn Show, or Trunk Show. I actually got to visit with my friend Caitlin. I don't think she watches podcasts. She's never said she watches podcasts, but hey, Caitlin, if you're like a secret podcast watcher. And FO alerts. I have so many FOs. And I even finished up some more that I haven't written down. So my first FO actually has a dramatic story attached. I worked on this at the Chrysalis Yarn Trunk Show. This is my hand-dyed yarn. And I actually got this stitch marker from Chrysalis Yarn Co. too. And it's I'm sure I'm going to butcher the pronunciation, Hamsha, I think is how you say it. The little hands with the eye. But this is my hand-dyed yarn. I showed this off in the last podcast. I used a solid for the brim. I really should have alternated my skeins, but I didn't just because I didn't. But I like how it kind of fades into that pinky color, and I think that I'm going to do a pink pom to top it off. And this hat does fit. It's a small, I just cast on, I can't even remember how many stitches. And it's a small child size. It does fit my 9-year-old, but just barely because the bottom of her ears still show. So I think that it will be better suited for my 2-year-old come winter when she's 3. So while I was working on this, though, I had to take my husband to the ER. So right before, I would say, this COVID hit us here in DFW, it was being talked about in the media and the news, but not, we didn't have any cases in our area, for sure. But he had an allergic reaction. So my husband is super allergy prone. He has seasonal allergies, and he's also allergic to some foods, but most of his food allergies are just like, I'm going to have an adverse reaction, but it's not like, what is that called? Anaphylactic allergy. It's not like one of those bad ones where you can't breathe. And he couldn't breathe. It was crazy. He drank. The girls had a sleepover, and I always go to the store, and when the girls are having friends over, we usually go to the store and get like treats and drinks and stuff because my family really only drinks water and milk. And so, you know, when the girls have sleepovers, I like them to be able to get sugary soft drinks or juice or whatever because it's nice. Well, one of the girls that had come wanted to get this Welch's grape juice. And so she drank, you know, a glass or two. It's kids. She was only here a day. And so there was like this whole jug of juice that we normally would never buy in our fridge. And my husband drank it, pretty much the entire container, because that's just the way he is. And he made us dinner, and then he was like, you know what, I'm not going to eat. I'm not feeling too good. And right around when he said that, his face started getting puffy. And I was like, what have you been doing? And he said that he had touched something when he was preparing food that he thought he was getting an allergy from. And I encouraged him to take allergy medicine. He did, but then he started puking. And he was like, no, this is something I ate. I don't know what the hell. And then he, backtracked. We food logged it, and he was like, it must have been the juice. And by the time he said that, his eyes were just so swollen. And I was like, okay, so should we go to the hospital? And he was like, no. And then maybe 2 minutes after that, he was like, yeah, I'm going to go get in the car. Let's go to the hospital. And by the time I got in the car, because I had to square away the children so they would be okay while I drove Dad to the hospital, his breathing was very labored. And I got in the car, and we live 25 miles from the nearest town, nearest hospital, nearest anything. And so I had to speed through like deer and hog country at nighttime, trying to get my husband, who is not breathing, to the hospital. And I made a joke. I was like, I'm going to have to pull over and trach you. He did not laugh. We got there fine. I had to run a couple of red lights and like flash my lights and tell people, hello, I'm here. Please don't pull me over or run into me. The ER did say that it was like life-threatening, and they were really glad that I got him there as quick as I could. They took him back immediately and began triaging him. I couldn't even be back there. And yeah, so they gave him lots of, I don't even know what, and oxygen, and he was in bad shape. We were there for 5 hours, and he left with a prescription for an EpiPen. So he's definitely, that was one of the most scariest situations we've been through, for sure, because yeah, he's never had an allergy like that. And I don't handle emergencies well, so I think I did pretty good. That was a long, crazy story for this hat, but I finished this up while I was waiting on him, because after they give you an epi, they have to monitor you for so long, because it can like do things to your breathing or your heart. I'm not real sure. I only half listen when people talk, so I feel bad. But so I finished that hat. We also, about a week after that, was the start of the girls' spring break. And so they went to his mom's house in South Dallas, basically. And he and I took a camping trip up to Oklahoma at the Wichita Wildlife Refuge. And so it's only about 2 hours from where we are here in Texas, just a straight shot up past the border. And while we did that camping trip as sort of a test, we got some new camping equipment for our anniversary. We had planned to go to Washington on this really epic camping trip. And our anniversary is April 20th or April 23rd. Our flight was supposed to leave April 20th. I don't think that trip's happening now. My husband is still like, oh, that's weeks away. A lot can happen in weeks. And I'm like, yeah, babe, this is a pandemic. This isn't going to be weeks. This is going to be months. We're not going to Washington. Anyway, I digress. We went to Oklahoma to test out our new winter camping gear. So we got new sleeping bags that are insulated for colder temperatures, because here in Texas it doesn't get super cold, and we're not winter campers anyway. But for the time of year we're going in Washington, and we kind of really wanted to up our seasonal camping gear game, we went ahead and upgraded our sleeping bags. And we took our tent out because it was raining. I've never camped in the rain. It was one of the best experiences, just being, up there with him alone. And we hiked and made food and just hung out. And I worked on this for the drive up there and finished it while we were up there. It's not finished because it does need its end woven in. And I think I am going to make the tassel for this. This is the Turnabout cowl, and it was for a crochet along for the DFW Fiber Fest that is now not happening, and they are having like a virtual show and tell, And hopefully I can make that. I keep forgetting about virtual knit night because, you know, I've got kids and they're attention mongers. But I really love this yarn I used. It was a gradient yarn that was gifted to me. That started out as this really beautiful periwinkle, kind of faded into purple, back into this like blue, and then finally into this mint color at the top. And it's a sparkly yarn. And I have enough to make the tassel, like I said. It's a really nice, lightweight cowl for someone who just wants that like pop of color. I did modify it a bit. I used a much smaller hook. I think I went smaller. That sounds right. I think she wanted you to use like an H, and I used an E. So I think if I used an H, it would just be a lot like wider. It wouldn't be as close to my neck, which might be good for some people. And it would probably be more like open and airy here. I just really wanted to use the E hook that I had, so that's why I did that. No real rhyme or reason to my madness. But yeah, I had to restart this a few times just because I'm a dingus and wasn't reading the directions correctly. But overall, it is a really easy, very quick, relaxing knit or crochet craft. I don't know, project. Let's use that one. So that is that project, and we went on that camping trip. We took another camping trip with the girls. We had planned to go down where we live on the lake. There's a river, and our lake has a dam. So when it rains a lot, they open up the gates to the dam, and then our river floods, basically. So we were planning on going down the river for a couple days with the girls. We have a canoe, and when we upped our camping gear, we finally added a kayak. We'd been wanting to do that for a couple years, but kayaks aren't always in the budget. So we were really bummed when it kept raining and raining and raining, and so we weren't able to go down the river. It's just not safe when they have gates open or when there's more predicted rain and they're potentially going to open gates. It's just not safe to be on the river. There's been lots of people that have drowned out here because they just don't heed warnings. So my husband kind of called around, and I was like, you know, shelter in place means shelter in place, because at this point it was all very like, you should stay home if you don't have a place to be. And my husband was like, camping's fine. We can go camping. We have to leave our house to go camping. And granted, if we stayed out here and took the river trip, we would see nobody. But if we go anywhere else, there's gas stations, there's state parks, there's entry fees, there's all places to pick up and deposit germs, right? He wouldn't listen to me. I was done arguing. I really wanted to go camping. So we hedged our bets and loaded up the kids and actually went. We had to call. He had a heck of a time finding a place that was open. Like all the state parks stopped taking reservations. Some of them were open, but you had to it's a whole system online, and they give you the runaround because it's the government. So anyway, I digress. He found Palo Duro State Park was still open and accepting reservations for campers. So we planned that trip, and there was two other places we were looking at, and one was 4 hours away, which is a stretch for us, even in Texas. That's a drive with kids. 4 hours is a lot. And then there was this other one that we ended up going to that's 5.5 hours away. I thought we were going to the one that was 4 hours away, and by the time we were in the car for 3.5 hours, I was like, kill me. We still have 2 more hours in the car. It was fine. They did great. I knit a lot. Tim wanted to play 20 questions with the kids. That was fun. It's just hard because our girls are such different ages, so it's really hard to like engage and entertain them all at the same time in a confined space. So yeah, we have a 14, a 9, and a 2-year-old, and it's just, they can't relate on a lot. But I worked on this hat. I really enjoyed working this up. I knit this to go back on the backtrack. I knit this for Tim for an anniversary present for our trip to Washington that we will likely not go on. And I used this beautiful yarn. It's Farm Twist DK Madeline Tosh in colorway Danger Will Robinson, and it's totally not going to show up. but it's just this blue. It's almost identical to this chrysalis scheme, except it's a completely different base and their colors are a little bit darker on this one. But it's, you know, it's got pops of this lichen green and this rust and these different variations of like cobalt blue and navy blue against this like medium blue background. I really, really love it. It looks amazing with his eyes. I really loved this stitch pattern. This is a free pattern on Ravelry called the Irma hat. And these are just knit two togethers and SSKs. Someone called them cables. But the little cables really reminded me of that trip because we had to drive into this switchback to get down into the canyons where we camped. And so it just has all these like little precious memories attached. The only bummer is it is too small for my husband. Maybe once I wash and block it, it won't be. I did weave in the ends, but it's not washed and blocked. It fits me great, but I have a small adult head. My husband does not have a small adult head. And when he wears it, the stitches are like really stretched out and you kind of like lose that effect. And it also is a little shorter on his ears. So I would say that it like sits there on him. And that's not exactly what I wanted. So hopefully blocking it out, we'll get that to like lay how he wants. But his other hat that I knit him stretched out quite a bit. So I'm thinking that even though this may be a bit snug, it will be okay overall. Anyway, this is what I had left. Pretty much a lot of yarn. I could have done another repeat and gotten it to be a little longer or even increased my stitches. But it is what it is at this point. It's a finished object. So I also, like I said, I've been going through my stash and I pulled out this yarn that I actually just got this year from Suburban Stitcher. And I'm going to knit myself the Kobuk for my Washington trip. That is just postponed. Okay, it is not canceled. It's not even postponed yet. It's just probably not happening. I hate that my lighting is so horrid, but suffice it to say, this is the most beautiful PNW bluish green imaginable, and it's going to be perfect for Kobuk. So I got a really fun package from my friend Michelle from Naughty Knitwits. Here's their logo. So Michelle and Leslie have a podcast. They're hilarious. If you don't watch them, you definitely should. I've been friends with Michelle for a couple years now. Leslie too, but I talk with Michelle a lot. Not a lot, but you know, we're friendly. I digress. I'd commented on one of her Instagram posts because she had posted about all the Desert Vista Dye Works yarn she had. I was like, oh wow, you know, I've never tried that. I still need to try it. And she was so kind and wanted me to send her my address, and she sent me some of her Desert Vista Dye Work yarn leftovers. So this color is really cool. It's on a sparkly base. Definitely one of the self-striping. I think this one is it. Vernica Zombody. And then she also sent me this one that has like a speckled with a coordinating heel and toe. And I can definitely get a pair of socks for my 9-year-old out of this. Maybe even me. I'll have to weigh it. Maybe like a little pair of rollers. That would be a lot of fun. And she sent me one of their pins on this little sparkly. Isn't that beautiful? Wow, that's showing up really good. Look at that sparkle. So pretty. So thank you so much, Michelle, that was such a bright, happy package to be able to get during all of this crazy randomness that's going on. So I also worked on these during the Paladura Canyon trip that we went on, these socks, but I made a major boo-boo. These are my fox socks. I showed you guys these last time. And I'd knit the leg on this sock this much too short from the stitch marker to where I've knit now, so about 1 inch. I'd already knit the heel and about half the foot on this sock before I realized that it was 1 inch short. And so, of course, I ripped all that work back because I couldn't wear a pair of socks like that. I just couldn't. And I'm trucking right along back on these now, ready to put a heel in. But that was a bummer because I would have had those basically finished by the time we got home had I not made that error. I've been crocheting so much through this pandemic we are experiencing. Crocheting has definitely taken a front seat on hobbies for me. I just really love, I guess, the instant gratification the most. I've started a little piggy. I should have brought my book. This is from the Edwards Menagerie crochet book. So they have tons of little animals, and you make them in these little pieces, and then you sew all the pieces together. I've shown these off before. I've made some in the past if you're a longtime viewer. But so I have 3 little pig legs, a pig head, and a pig body. And I've started another pig leg. So now I have this leg to finish and 2 ears, and then sew them all up. So probably about an hour's more worth of work. And this yarn is just the most beautiful baby pink. Not really baby pink, like a soft skin tone pink. I'd really like a sweater in it, but I think it'd wash me out. You're not going to be able to see that. Maybe you are. But the perfect color for a pig, really. And it's Madeline Tosh DK in colorway Scout, I believe. Yep. And I've really enjoyed Madeline Tosh DK is one of my absolute favorite bases, and so it's been really enjoyable to crochet this up. And that is living in my little Molly of a Homespun House market bag, or little basket. I forget what she calls these. Mini basket. So I've also been working on, this is a book that I picked up from the library, and I think I showed it off a couple episodes ago, but we missed going back to the library by 1 day. So the girls had spring break. We were out of town. I got them back. We were planning on going to the library. Something happened to prevent us from that day. And so we woke up the next morning, and I was like, I better call first to make sure they're open. And I called, and they were like, no, yesterday was our last day open. We can get books for you off the shelves, and you can come pick them up. Womp womp. I'm such a tactile person. I like to walk the, stacks and take out the books, and I just can't tell you what I want to read. I have no idea. I need to look. I know, I'm weird. But so I was going through all of the books that I have on hand from the library that have not been returned, and I pulled this one back out. And when I first looked at it, I just, it was just eye candy, just something to kind of flip through. But since I've been organizing my stash, I wanted to look at it with fresh eyes and see if I had anything on hand to make any of these. And they're so much fun. Like, I would say there are patterns in here that are definitely very advanced, but if you were an adventurous beginner, you could do a lot of these easily. This one is I think this is the next one I'm going to do. Isn't that beautiful? And I did this one. So that is puffs and picots. And it says in the book to use sport weight yarn, and I had some crochet cotton on hand, so it's a worsted weight, and I just went ahead and used that and upped my hook. This one says to use a size B. I used, I think, like an I, and so it is, instead of their finished 7 1/4 inch diameter, I bet this is, I don't have a tape measure, probably 10 or 12, maybe 11. But my lighting sucks. It's this really beautiful coral pink color, and yeah, it was so much fun. This was so quick. I actually made it 2 times because on my center puffs, I didn't do them right on the other one, and I didn't like how flat they looked. So I quickly made another one, and I mean, this took me maybe 40 minutes to bang out. and I hung it on my wall just like it is. I really, if I had it to do it again, I would probably insert like an embroidery hoop. I would crochet an embroidery hoop on this round right here, and then do these 2 last rounds outside the hoop. That way I could have like a nicer way to hang it on the wall. But this is fine. I just kind of tacked some of the points out and put it on my wall. So that's one that I finished. And I also finished this one, the African flower. I really like those colors. And here's mine. It's not finished. I didn't weave in my ends. Most of these I just have to cut because I actually like crochet my ends in as I'm going. But there it is. And this is just made with some acrylic yarn. Really love these colors. I got these yarns at Hobby Lobby. I'm kind of sad with them right now with their practices. Here's the color palette. With this whole COVID-19 crisis and staying open and not offering their employees hazard pay. I mean, I know a lot of people have always complained about Hobby Lobby and their practices, but I guess I just never really paid attention to it. And now that I'm starting to become more aware, I just don't know that I can support Hobby Lobby anymore, which is a bummer because I love them. But that's the yarn I used on these. I got all the colors like gray, hot pink, charcoal, light blue, light pink, aqua, gray. I don't know what all their colors are called. But these were only $1. And it's pretty substantial yardage. Like, here's the pink one I used on this. And I have, you know, at least half a skein left. I didn't use much for these little mandalas. And this, again, they say to use a sport weight yarn and a D hook, and I used a worsted weight yarn and a I hook. So mine, their circumference was going to be 9 inches. Mine's probably definitely 12. And I just hang it on my wall. And it's got these little picots, and again, I just go through those picots with tacks and hang it on the wall. You could put this on an embroidery hoop, and like I said, it would be a nicer finish, but I just didn't have any on hand and wanted to craft as much as possible. I love this. I'm super happy with these. I am going to make some more. I already have plans to make this one next. And my colors are going to be light gray, dark gray, and that little turquoise color I have with gray. Really like that one. And there's another one. They're just all so cool. Like, love that one. And this is just such a great stash buster or scrap buster. I mean, you could do any weight yarn really and just have these like little mandalas to do a little gallery wall. That's kind of what I plan to do with them, is basically a gallery wall in my room right over my crafts. So just full of inspiration really, and there's definitely harder ones and then easier ones. Like this, in my opinion, would be a very easy one to complete, whereas this one may be a little bit more advanced. So, and like this one, totally easy. Totally easy. It looks complicated, but crocheting is so easy. So yeah, I guess that is all that I have for you guys. Let me take a quick peek at my notes. I talked about all my trips. I do want to do more crocheting. I found this really cool pattern for these jellyfish, and it says nursery decor, but I can put them anywhere in my house. I don't have to have a nursery to put them in. So I think right under my living room window, I'm going to make these little jellyfish, and they have like beads on their tentacles. I cannot remember who the pattern is by, but if you if you search for it on Ravelry, it should come up. It's a free pattern. Printing out the pattern is kind of a hassle because it comes with all these ads, which is just, maybe that's not the one I was thinking of. Maybe it just has a lot of pictures to explain that's it. It has a lot of pictures to explain like the attachment of the beads and then the attachment of the tentacles. So I think it's like a 16-page pattern or something. I don't remember. I did figure out, I figured out, my friend Dawn at midnight, I don't think she's watching, probably not, right before all this happened, my very last night I got to go to, I took in my Sunset Highway. I remember, if you guys remember me talking about it, I was trying to get the sleeve done and my color work wasn't lining up, and so I kept having to like rip back, and I was reading the pattern right, or was I? Because Dawn pointed out that I was reading the chart for the color work from the top down instead of the bottom up, and that's how you read color work charts. Total like noob crazy thing for me just to, oh yeah, that's right, you're right. And so I haven't began it again since having that knowledge, but I do hope to finish up my Zweig and get started on my Sunset Highway sleeves during all of this. I don't even think the kids are going back to school at this point. We'll see. I know a lot of other counties have just closed down school for the rest of the year. Ours hasn't yet, and we are really rural, not really outside of a major city, so maybe we'll get through it faster than everyone else. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, you guys. It's all sort of up in the air, so I hope you enjoyed sitting down with me and catching up with what I've been working on. I hope that you stay well and your family stay well during this pandemic, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.